Hi guys, I'm going to be doing some book reviews today on 5 books that I have read after I graduated. Most of them are in personal finance, but one of them isn't. And I really wasn't much of a reader before, especially in college, but after graduating, I have a lot more free time now. And for me, this is a way to keep my brain stimulated, because when you're not in school and you don't have a curriculum, I feel like it's really easy to kind of just stop learning. So here we go. So the first book I read is called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a super popular personal finance book. So naturally, that was where I wanted to start off. I just got into personal finance after graduating. Prior to I guess graduation, I really had no idea what a budget was, what investing in stocks were like, because my parents never told me. So this book was recommended to me by Stanley, one of my friends. And yeah, it's super easy to digest the way that it's written. I zoomed through it in a week, and every aspect of that book was super interesting. It really changes the way that you view what cash flow is, and generally teaches you a lot that you wouldn't learn in school. It's definitely a book that I recommend everyone, even if you aren't really interested in personal finance at all. It's something that really can help improve your financial literacy. So 10 out of 10, I would really recommend that book to everyone, and I feel like there's a lot you can learn from it. So the second book I picked up is called Rich Woman, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad's wife who actually wrote it. I honestly think this book is a little too basic. If you read this book and then you read Rich Dad afterwards, I feel like that would be a good logical flow on information about personal finance. This was pretty easy to read. A lot of it's written in kind of dialogue between her and her friends who are all in different situations, and it does a really good job putting into perspective how investing can be slightly different for women, but overall the themes of investing are the same for everyone. I read about halfway, and I don't think I'm going to finish it. It's just a little too simple for me. I've been doing a lot of research prior to reading Rich Dad about personal finance, so a lot of this is kind of repetitive and things that I've heard of and read before. But regardless, it's very entertaining. Like I said earlier, a lot of it is kind of stories of her friends, and it's very engaging. So, say, I don't want to give it a 5 out of 10. I feel like that's kind of mean. Maybe a 7 out of 10. Definitely if she wasn't married to, Robert Kiyosaki, I don't think she would have been published. I don't think she would have written this book, but she does provide a unique perspective as a woman. So this is something that you should check out, potentially. So my third book is A Random Walk Down Wall Street, and this is super thick. I'm like halfway through. I absolutely really love this book. It was really hard to start in the beginning because the first chapter is kind of about I guess previous stock crashes and how it happened, and it can be a little bit dense at times, especially with the vocabulary. A lot of it is a little bit more complex, and I found myself having to search up a ton of words as I was reading. But after the first part, when it gets to the techniques of how people have tried to beat the market in the past, how those have worked and what we can learn from, I found that part to be very interesting. I started investing in stocks after I graduated, so it's been one of my main hobbies of now, so I felt that this is really informative. This book, however, can be a little too complex and difficult if you are a complete beginner. I would recommend reading a book such as Rich Dad Poor Dad, or just watching YouTube videos. My favorite YouTuber is Graham Stephan, who And a lot of YouTubers or online websites will kind of tell you the idea of what broad indexes are and some other terminology that is associated with investing in stocks. So if you don't have understanding of that basic terminology, this could be a really hard book to digest. It's I've been reading this. I've been reading about an hour a day, sometimes even more, and I'm only on page 200 out of like 400 something. So it's something that really takes time to kind of go through. It's not something you can just read really quickly and understand, but super informative. I feel like now, even after only reading half, I have a lot better understanding of what the stock market is, and I'm not as scared as taking risks and buying stocks, whereas even a month ago, I would consider myself as someone really risk adverse. So I was not putting myself in the game. I was kind of just waiting, hoping for like a recession or a crash. And this kind of teaches you what risk is and how to have a better understanding of it so that you can profit in the stock market. So I really like this book. I'm trying to finish it before it's due. All of these books I've borrowed from the library to save money and also to reduce my carbon footprint. I don't have a Kindle. I don't really like to read ebooks, so I prefer the old traditional way of reading. So the next book I'm going to be talking about is called How to Get a Financial Life, Personal Finance in Your 20s and 30s. I actually checked this book out the same time that I got Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was the first time I went to the library. The second time I got Rich Woman, A Random Walk Down Wall Street, and Philosophy 101, which I'm going to be talking about after. This book is what I recommend for absolute beginners that have that really want to get a very what's that word? What is that word? Comprehensive. There you go. Comprehensive understanding of I guess personal finance, or just what it is to be a grown up and having adult responsibilities. If you do have knowledge or a basic understanding of some of these subjects, it might be a little too basic. So for me, I kind of skipped through the part about stocks or having a high interest savings account, but I really enjoyed the section about doing taxes because that's something that I've never learned in school, and it's really important. So I really enjoyed that part. I pretty much finished everything except for some of the just like a hair in my nose. Instead of I pretty much finished the whole book, skipped through some small portions, but this is something that you can get through pretty quickly. Everything's very concise, very informative. So I definitely recommend that book. It was really well received. I think she said that she sold over like 1 million copies. So yeah, I would give it maybe an 8 out of 10. I'm only giving an 8 because I did know some of the stuff that she was mentioning, but overall a very good experience. So the last book I'm reviewing is called Philosophy 101, a crash course in the principles of knowledge, reality, and values. So actually I was not looking for this book at all. I went to the library to look for more personal finance books, which is where I found Rich Woman and A Random Walk Down Wall Street. I actually saw this in the Just In section, and I randomly flipped it open and I got to the part that said Plato's Cave, and what intrigued me was that I've been listening to a lot of I guess thinkers and lecturers on YouTube lately, or through podcasts, and a lot of them have mentioned previous philosophers or Plato's Cave specifically, and when they mentioned that in the past, I would literally not have any idea what they're talking about, and I have to search it up. So this seemed like a pretty good book for me to kind of know all of the philosophers, like Plato, Socrates, how do you say it? Socrates? Aristotle. This book is very concise. Oh, I got the Plato's Cave page. So, for example, each thing would be pretty much just like 1 or 2 pages. Those are all the books that I read so far. Thank you if you got to the end of this video. It is my first one, and hopefully some of the books I've read seem interesting to you and you read them as well. Let me know in the comments if you have read these books before, or what books you want to, or if you want to suggest some books to me.